Tribhuvan, welcome to the channel. Excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Dimitri, for inviting.
Yeah, why don't you do just a quick introduction of who you are, just kind of like your education and where you're working, and then we can dive into the details of it all.
So I don't have a typical quant journey like Dimitri. Dimitri also comes from a finance background. So I come from a finance background. I studied a bachelor's of finance in my undergrad and pursued FRM. And when I was working for Deutsche Bank in the team, I realized that I want to get into quant, and I started. So a lot of my journey is not after my job. It started when I was in undergrad college. So I started trading markets in 2019 when I was basically joined my college, and later I was looking for internships in trading jobs. And
Okay.
later I got to know a lot of jobs just require you to have coding skills and good mathematical skill sets to earn good trading jobs. So in second year of my college, I started with learning coding. So I started with Python. I started with this basic trade strategies called like strategy based on co-integration and stuff. And all I started making those projects. And later I realized, want to learn more, I have to start getting more math. So I started learning more econometrics part like time series analysis and GAS and all these stuff. And later I started learning more on linear algebra, calculus and stuff. This is how my journey started. So I didn't have a structured journey. It's just basically hit and trial. I did a lot of hit and trial. And when I was working for Deutsche Bank, that time I wanted to get a job in quant, but I was not in the quant job. So what I did was I started writing a very good content on like quant related stuff like option pricing models. I used to code a lot of codes. I used to write code and I used to put it on LinkedIn, and I started getting a lot of traction. And that's how I started building my content on quant and everything. And still, I was working for a job. And later, I got, because of my LinkedIn process, I got few interviews with very good quant jobs. Like I cannot name the firm, but few bulge bracket firms reached out to me, and I have few of a buy side firm as well. But yeah, in so I've interviewed with them as well. And but later, I was working for Deutsche Bank, and then I met my co-founder. So I run Quant Insider, if people know. So I met my co-founder. She used to work as a quant for JP Morgan. Uh,
Okay.
so we met and we were like, okay, we can start something where we can start uh, educating people and helping people on how to get started with quant finance in India. Because in India, quant was a very new industry in 2022, 2023. And we started quant finance, so quant insider in 2023 October. So we never started, and I never thought I will take it as a full time thing. I started like, okay, it's a side thing. I will keep running it and I will keep working towards quant stuff and other things. But we got a very solid traction where people started liking our content and stuff and all. And it started growing very fast. We grew very fast. We went from 0 to 100,000 followers like in 11 months on LinkedIn. And we did webinars for IITs and other good colleges in India. Even I did for options trading for speaking session for Bombay Stock Exchange, which is one of the exchanges in India. And later I realized, okay, I can quit my job and I can take it as full time thing.
Okay.
And even I remember when I was working for Deutsche Bank, one of our like global head of quant research from London office saw my LinkedIn profile and he reached out to me. Okay, we want to interview you for a role. And
Okay.
I was like, okay, but that time I was serving my notice period. So I did interview, but the thing was I didn't go ahead with anything because I wanted to continue my this full time. I was like, okay, I've decided to take it full time. I will do it. And if things goes bad, and if I don't do anything, I will just go back to my job. And if enough people know me, anybody can at least give me some kind of a job in some way. It's the worst that can happen is everything will get closed and I will get back to a job. So that's how I started this. So yeah, so Quant Insider we started an education platform. Now we're actually broadening our services. Now we have ventured into algo solutions for financial institutions,
Okay.
like building algo trading platforms for brokers. If you are a if you are a firm which want to get into HFT and you want FPGA solutions, our company does that as well. If you we have partners with one of our local firms in India with whom we build these models. So even we have a algo trading platform for retail traders where people can build algo trading strategies using generative AI models. We have trained the model on algo trading strategies and you just give it a prompt that we created. And now we are working towards building an AI product for quant hiring,
Okay.
which will be out soon in 1.5 months. So it will be for both and for financial institutions which want to hire quant talent as well as people who want to get into quant. So in terms of hiring platform, even it will help us in scoring your job profile and everything and as well as other things. So building a whole ecosystem where we can connect the recruiters as well as the job hunters in the quant, which we're working right now.
Okay. Very
Yeah,
cool.
and now we are also working towards. So we have a partnership in New York with one of very senior quant, and in that we are working towards building like risk systems and stuff. So we are trying to build an ecosystem of quant finance where we can put everything together.
Okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense. So what is the job market like in India? So India is my actually second largest
yeah,
country. US is number
viewership.
one, and then India. And everyone always
Yeah,
asks me, like, Dimitri, tell me about the job market in India. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't live in India, so I can't tell you.
yeah.
What is the quant job market like there, and what is the education system like? Are there universities coming up, or like how's that?
Yeah. So let me talk in terms of talent pipeline first, right? How the quant hiring actually happens in India. So the
Okay.
major hiring actually goes from we have selected top IITs. So major investment bank sell side hiring actually goes from these top seven, top eight IITs in through campus recruitment. So I think this concept is not there in US that companies will come and hire directly, but in India we have first something campus recruitment. From that they do these hirings, and we do have option of doing lateral hiring, but again lateral hiring is very less. Like you do offline, you apply through a offline internship and like off campus internship and you go there way. But major talent sourcing actually happen from these IITs. And
Okay.
then we have HFT side and buy side. Basically HFTs, like we have tower research in India, we have certain securities, then we have trading from the SIG, then we have local firms like Quadai and Graviton. All these again go for these top seven IITs.
Okay.
Again, we have something called as JE in India. It's an entrance exam for IITs. So these top firms prefer people who have ranked less than 200 or 300 all over India. And if I tell you, if you know, like more than like 10 lakh people apply for these J exam. So you have to be if you have these rank like 100 AIR 100 All India rank 100 200, they prefer these kind of people. So it's basically like the you are already out of the race for most of the good HFT jobs if you are not from a top IIT, or
Okay.
particularly for trader kind of a role. If you want to get into quant development, still you have a chance. But for proper trader kind of a role, you are already out of the pool. And again, if I say the quality of job on the investment bank side is not that good in India, because a lot of work which is being done is basically more on implementation side. Like you will be working on documentations, you will get some project which you have to implement. So research part is very less here.
Yeah.
Until least you become at least like 6 7 years of experience, and then you become a like VP or stuff. Before that, you don't have that kind of a research environment where you do any proper quant research, something like that in the investment bank side. And the thing is, a lot of jobs are increasing, but again, the pipeline is also huge in India. So job market is
Yes.
growing, but because a lot of local firms are also now getting into quant, like local brokers, like there are few brokers who are starting their own prop desk. Then there are a lot of firms who are starting specific quant funds and stuff. So the number of like I would say it's a growth job market growth in India. But again, like the supply is huge and the demand is like jobs are very less.
Okay.
So job market is there, it's growing, but a lot of current jobs are more into mid office controls, like model validation, risk management kind of a jobs are more there as compared to front office. And even a lot of front office jobs are not front office jobs in India. They are for sake of saying it front office.
Yeah, I know when I worked for some of the global banks, we would have an Indian division, and it was
Yeah,
always, to your point, right? It was the documentation, it was like the
yeah,
paperwork process, and it's like technically you worked on model validation
yeah,
or model development, but it was always,
yeah.
yeah, like this, I don't know, more like the lackey kind of like frustrating part of the job. And so I could see a lot of people also when I recommend, I'm like, try to get a job in the roles actually doing the coding, because that's typically where you're going to get more excitement than doing like, paperwork and documentation and simple stuff.
Also, I would say, if you are in India, if you want a good kind of a control, go for domestic firms,
Hmm.
which prefer domestic guys. But if you go for top banks like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, City, these people have already their teams in London and New York offices, so they don't have any good front office roles in India. So if you want to do front office kind of a job, go for these local banks. Again, then it's a huge pay parity in terms of this. So let's say if you go to, let's say, JP Morgan as a quant right out of IIT, top 5 IIT, you will pay like you will get base of like 25 20 25 LPA, which is a very good rupees in India. It's a very base, it's a base. But if you again go for a domestic fund, it will go to 15 lakh LPA in India.
Okay.
So I had to convert in dollar or not, but yeah, it's like basically 15 lakh is like you can say 1.5 million rupees,
Okay.
and 25 lakh is basically 2.5 million rupees in terms of rupees. So that's kind of pay parity is also there in terms of domestic form as well as in terms of if you compare it to any global bank which we have.
Is there any advantage in staying in India versus trying to do like a transfer? Or is it more advantageous to stay and grow in India to make opportunity?
I think it's all about the career path you want to choose. So if you let's say if you want to be someone who are like if you want to be on the again which side of the you are in. If you're a buy side is sell side. So if you're in buy side, you still a lot of growth opportunities because a lot of firms are coming to India now.
Mhm.
So a lot of new firms are coming and setting up their offices in Gift City, Good City, Gujarat, and the Gandhinagar. Sorry, and then we have a lot of HFTs sitting out of Gurgaon. So a lot of firms are coming there. In sell side, I would say I don't see a lot of work getting transformed from the New York or London offices to Indian offices.
Okay.
So I think if you want very intellectual kind of a work, you will not get in the sell side in India, at least if you're working for MNC banks. In buy side, if you go, a lot of mid-sized firms are coming up. I consult with a lot of mid-sized prop desk in India, which want to hire talent, and they are building a lot of good products in like trading. They're working a lot of research part. So you will get a lot of intellectual simulation and intellectual work on the mid-sized firms and buy, like who are trading actually is compared to going to buy side like sell side jobs in top MNCs. So you have to choose what kind of job you want to do. And a lot of time, what happened is that recently only I was talking to a firm based out of Mumbai. So I'm right now in Mumbai. So I was talking to this firm. So I consult them on hiring and I consult them on building trading systems and everything with my other thing with my team. So we were having a discussion and they came up with few requirements that they want to this kind of a talent. And I was like, okay, I can help with sourcing this. So I asked them their budget. See, the budget is a problem because you're competing with other big firms.
Yeah.
So even firms also face problem getting a very good talent because a local talent will compare that okay in a Goldman Sachs I'm getting like let's say 30 lakh as a base salary, 33 million rupees as base salary, and for a similar kind of a work I will get like let's say 15 million or like 1.25 million to 2 million rupees, not dollars, sorry, rupees. I'm saying
Yeah.
rupees. Okay,
Yeah,
so
you're
people
good.
shouldn't confuse it. So they're like okay, then there is a trade off. If you want a good work, you will not get paid as much as you will get paid at a bank, but again you will not get the that kind of intellectual simulation there. So
Yeah.
it's a trade-off you have to make now. And how you see your career as a long term, then you decide. So that's the thing which I've realized in India, like talking to different firms and hiring things, like in a hiring front especially.
It's very similar here. When so I work at a small firm now and I run a team. And when I hire, it's like I can pay this amount. And then everyone's like, but the big bank's offering me this. And I'm like, I can't afford it. Like I only have so much budget to make those hires. So that makes sense. So basically, how would you rank this on competitiveness? Like you're saying, right? HFT is like the most competitive. So it's like really, it's standard US process, kind of same thing, right? Go to the top universities, do really well in the exams, and then you can work in the upper HFT. If you're not going to do that and you have a little bit lesser score, then you start to look more towards like quant dev. Is that what you're saying on the buy side?
No, if you're not, let's say you are not, you didn't go to any, like if you go to any mids, like let's say NITs, which are like below IITs, but again, you have to choose. So with that profile, also you can get a quant job, but again, you will not get a top HFT. You have to settle for a mid-sized firm,
Okay.
and then you have to settle for that kind of a pay. You will not give like in India. So let's say if you're joining, let's say there's very big firm called Koda in India. It's a very big HFT firm in India, and they pay like 1 crore rupees. That's like it's a very 1 crore rupees. That's basically 10 million rupees. You can say 10 million rupees in terms of rupees. I'm considering in terms of rupees. So that kind of money they pay, but again they say like you should have a J rank of this. You should go from to like top 5 IITs and this that. So again, so it's all about which tier form you want to go and which kind of a pay you want to get. If you're just going to stay stuck that I will go to these top 7 IIT HFT firms and I will not go to any other firm, then you will stay stuck and you will never even enter the industry.
Okay.
So you have to decide based on that, like what kind of profile you have, and then based on current profile, what the best profile, the best job you can get. You cannot stay stuck on that. Okay, I want to do this. Otherwise, you go to US, do a masters or do a STEM program, and then again fight for H1B visa, and then try to get a job. That's a whole scenario. Or you go to like UK or Europe, and then you do it.
Okay. That makes sense. Is Is it common to see people shift between like a mid-level tier and an upper level tier like 5 years into a career? Or is it more or less like you've got kind of in that track and that's kind of where you're at?
It's a bit difficult if you're just going to say you can shift like you can like it's about again tier firms, right? If you're tier one, let's say if I say the Cita Securities office in India, or let's say we have Towers office in India, and let's say we have a Quad, and then we have few these tier one, so the people will jump from this tier one to that tier one.
Okay. But it's very rare to go between them.
Yeah, going from a tier two to tier one is very difficult. You can go, but it's basically probability is very less. So generally, I've seen people going from tier one to tier one only, like from year to year, and few of the people have been able to jump from a sell side to a these kind of firms. But again, it's when like again those people were with like they were on the onshore jobs, so they were in Mumbai office, but they were dealing with onshore teams in Singapore.
Okay.
So they had some kind of a trading exposure for the clients out of Singapore. So they used to make the like QIS teams at banks, right?
Mhm.
So they used to be similar QIS roles, and they were able to somehow able to switch to that. But again, it's a very tough job because sometimes people take pay cut on that.
Okay. That makes sense. So what was the process here of choosing finance? Did you just enjoy finance when you were growing up as a kid? Or is it more or less like just something you chose because you thought it'd be interesting? And like how did you make that transition? Because like in my mind when I did it, I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm like doctor, finance. I guess business is general enough. And so I just chose finance, not knowing exactly kind of the path or the career.
It's a very funny story, I will tell you. So basically, I was in my 12th standard, so I took commerce because I was like, okay, in my family, everybody from a STEM background. I want to do something different for my family. So everybody was an engineer, or like most of the people are engineers,
Okay.
and my father was also engineer and stuff. I okay, I want to do something different. So I took commerce, and I studied commerce. Got to learn about markets, and I started. Okay, so I had a girlfriend that time. Okay, I'm being very candid and very openly, and I wanted to give her something, and I didn't have money. So I was like, okay, how can I make money? And I was like, okay, my father used to invest in markets that time when I was a kid, and I don't used to listen to like he used to, when I used to watch TV, he used to be like, okay, put this channel, I have to track markets, like where are the markets I have to track? You change it, and from that I used to be like, okay, there's something called share market or stock market. So I'm like, okay, there I can make some money. So I started learning about stock market in 12th class, but I realized, okay, you need capital to go there. So that's how I actually got introduced to the market because it's not very directly, but yeah, okay. And then I find it fascinating. Okay, first I start came it like okay, I can make money. Then I later realized okay, it's very interesting. I started learning about markets and stuff, but I don't have a very typical journey like okay, I found it this way. It's a very different thing which happened with me. So that's how it. And later started learning market trading and all. So before I was more like a fundamental guy,
Mhm.
more into like stock research and everything till my first year of college. And after that, I got into trading because due to COVID, college got closed. We were sitting at home and doing online classes, and we had this club called Bulls and Bears in our college, and
Okay.
we seniors used to and that time I was pursuing FRM as well, so I had understanding of derivatives, and I joined them as a derivative analyst. And we started analyzing, and we used to trade college fund. Like we had a small fund in college with our club, and used to trade it, and that's how I learned about derivatives and building trading strategies in that club through our seniors and everything.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah,
And then it was kind of at Deutsche, then you were saying you kind of realized like you wanted to do more coding, more hands-on,
yeah,
move to the quant side. Was it out of like interest? Like for me, I realized for traditional finance, like it's okay, but it's not that exciting. For me, it was like
yeah.
the math and the stats and the programming seemed more like challenging. Like it was more interesting and in depth. I mean, what was kind of like that realization as part of the job that you realized like I've got to move more towards the quant side of this and I need to get kind of away from the traditional.
So I got interested in statistics and econometrics when I was studying FRM, right? If you remember, we have something called quantitative method in FRM, right? Part one. So we
Yeah.
study distributions, we study regression, we study like Gauch model stuff and all. So that's how I got very interested in that. And later, like I told you, right, I wanted internship, trading internship, and I got to learn about that. Okay, you need a very good stat math background with a coding skill set. So that's why I started learning about coding, basic coding, and these things in college. But still, I was not good enough to get a very good analytics kind of a job. But yeah, but when I got the job and I started realizing, okay, this job is very boring. I was working in the data team, but I realized it's very boring job. I used to just analyze data. I used to do coding as well, bit of coding there. But I like, okay, there's no intellectual simulation. So I like, okay, I will start learning things. I will start. So the work thing which have worked out for me was that I used to be very open about talking to people and meeting people. So even in my bank, in my job, I used to reach out to people on Teams. Like we have
Okay.
company Teams. Like I used to put message, "Hi, I'm Tribhuvan from India, and this." Okay, so people, okay, and I used to be very active on LinkedIn. So I got to connect with a lot of good people in industry, and that's how I even connected local trading firms in India. Like so there are a lot of few firms which wanted to get into these kind of transitions, and I used to write code and put out. So they used to reach out to me, can you help us with the automation of these codes and trades? Like, okay, I can help you with that. So that's how I got experience. So I was doing it while doing my job.
Okay.
So that's how I got exposure to everything. So I was doing my job, but I used to after my job I used to do this. I used to talk to these trading firms in India, because a lot of these trading firms don't have enough money to hire very professional consultant and all. That's why I got a chance. Okay, I will at least help them with that. Even I will learn something. That's how I started with this whole thing.
Okay. And then how did you officially start Quant Insider? Was it like you and your founder just decided like, hey, we're gonna do this, or was it
Yeah.
more like you saw like a need for it, or like what was the thought process?
Okay, so the thing was, we realized that because I was also learning about quant and stuff and all, I had a lot of good understanding by that, because I had given interviews for few good firms and few buy side firms, as well as my co-founder was working as a quant at JP Morgan, and she had also experience of giving very good interviews at very big firms. And she used to be like, okay, when I was studying, I don't used to get resources to study, and even the pathway to learn finance and get into quant finance. So we thought, okay, let's start something, and we never thought we'll grow or something. We just started, it's just a side thing. We'll do it with our jobs and let's see how it goes. But we got traction, like I said, and we grew. So it was just planned thing which we did. Like we thought, okay, let's start something as an initiative, right? Like you start a YouTube channel, and I would thank you, like, because I have watched your YouTube channel videos a lot. We were in 2022, I used to watch it. 2023, I watched it, and a lot of motivation came from your video. Like, okay, and you made this video, right? People think that 50% is finance, 50% is math, but it's basically 80% math, 20% finance. You have to sit and study like a kid, like a school kid. So like,
Yeah.
okay, your channel also helped me a lot in that front, like understanding that it's you have to be ready to take that hit on you if you're transitioning, and it's basically a lot of effort you have to make to switch, because coming from traditional finance background, you lose a lot of mathematical. Let's say you don't do math that much regularly. You just do basic equation like cap m and all. You will solve it. You will sort put for parity or something like that. But you never go into depth of those mathematics behind it. So it's very tough to transition. And a lot of times, what happens, people lose the like the connection with math because they didn't study out like for last 3 years. So a lot of people even forget basic math concepts, like even solving an inequality, because haven't done it for so many years.
Yeah.
So transitioning even requires you to like you go back to concepts like set functions, then you remember inequalities, how to solve inequalities. Then you move it towards like basic linear algebra. Then you build it towards, let's say, calculus and everything. So you a lot of time you have to even revise elementary math before getting into this. If you haven't studied math for a lot of years.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a challenge for me because everyone's like, what do you mean you haven't taken calculus? I'm like, well, I took calculus, but it's been like 3 or 4 years. So I'm like having to pull
Yeah.
out like old textbooks and catch up. It's definitely a challenge to make that sort of transition. So did you guys utilize your experience then, I guess, to build Quant Insider? Because you started out right as an educational platform. Are you kind of like right the expertise of learning the job, learning the skills, you're consulting and helping trading firms? Is that kind of like
So we started purely from a, let's say, education point of view. So we started like a consulting firm, like service. We used to do 30 minutes, 1 hour calls with students, and how you can start studying quant finance if you are in current job. So my co-founder used to do a lot of calls on these, that how you should switch from this to this job, what
okay,
I think you should look for. And then we had like interview questions and everything which we had, and we used to give it a very nominal prices and everything. So we started with that, and later we grew very fast. So we started doing more like long-term mentorship. We used to bring few of the people from industry to do those things. Like a lot of people cannot reveal their name because they had some idea like those problems, right?
yeah,
So they used to come and those mentorships and all. Even now we are building few more products on the education side. So we started completely education to help people to crack on jobs. That's
okay,
for the main goal. And later we thought, okay, we can collaborate with few course providers and promote those courses and everything. After we go through the courses, we find it good and all. So we now have product offering. So the main goal was just to start with awareness and basic products, just so we can sustain our business, because we had very nominal services and we want to sustain it, and that's why we started it. So So we used to have few services, but main goal was just to provide awareness in India particularly, because India, so quant finance has grown a lot in last 2 years. Before that, people don't even used to know about it. Like, except few top IITs colleges, because their used to company used to go for hiring for quant roles. Local, like, the other colleges weren't even aware there's industry or a field.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. I mean, I remember when I was in grad school in 2012 to 2014, and I remember it was this very large imbalance. It was like a lot of Chinese, an okay amount of Indians, but it really wasn't that much. And then you had a few of the other countries, Americans and everything. And then I've been talking to the programs, and they've been saying in the last like 3, 4 years here, maybe 5 years, all of a sudden we're seeing a lot less Chinese students and a lot more Indian students coming to the US. And to my surprise, I'm like, well, everybody knows about quant finance, right? It's just everywhere. And then I start
Yeah.
talking to people, even in the US, like math students are like, what do you mean you work in finance and do math? And then I find out, right, India's markets are starting to grow, they're expanding, there's more funds starting. So it seems like it's kind of a growing industry in itself. But to your point, right, it's how do you get more people involved and how do you spread the word to kind of draw in more universities outside of the big names?
So right now, what we are doing is, so we are partnering with, there's something called campus ambassador programs. Okay, so we are collaborating with IT Bombay right now. So
Okay.
we are there. Let's say we are there. So in that, what we're going to happen is we are going to do sessions for their. So what they so they have something called as campus ambassador programs. And what they do is, they, for all, like, let's say like 1,000 colleges or big, like, exact number I don't even remember, but they have certain one student from each college, out of, like, from very colleges of India. They become campus ambassador for each college, and then they are in connect with IT Bombay. So
Okay.
we are a partner with them, and we will be giving free education courses to these students.
Okay.
So we are providing machine learning finance course for free for these students, and we will be doing few sessions for them.
Okay.
And same way, we are also going to collaborate with IIT Madras, which is one of the top IITs in India, for the same thing. And then IIT Guwahati. So we are working with few IITs campus ambassador programs. So that way, we are going to promote the education, as well as we are going to provide free education to these campus ambassadors to spread the word in their colleges and everything about us, and as well as about the quant as an industry. That's one way. And then we do a lot of these sessions for different colleges. We, like, every month I go to a one college or two colleges. They invite us to do these sessions. So we do all these as a free of cost for them. Like, I will go travel there. I will do one day workshop for them, and I will talk about the industry, talk about how the job market is growing, what are the things you should do. So this is why we are, like, basically promoting the whole industry in a way. And now we are thinking to collaborate few of the firms in India on this front. So we are already in talk with a very big firm. Like, it's a very big firm. We are in talk with them. So to launch an education initiative
Okay.
in order to this thing.
That makes sense. Do
Yeah.
you think that the industry itself will grow faster than the educational piece? Because I know, like right now, I've heard like there's some changes in some of the regulations. I know trading is huge in India. Do you guys see a change kind of in the markets, like the trading markets and the banks? Do you see kind of an expansion of new funds and firms? Because as you're getting more students that are trained and specialized, it seems like you're probably going to end up with more firms. Do you think that market will be more saturated and competitive, or do you think it'll just be keep growing? Because I mean, it's India, it's huge. There's a lot of people.
See, the firms are going. People are starting new quant-based strategies. Even a lot of traditional fund who used to do long only or fundamental, they are hiring PMs from different places and launching their own quant-based firm. So there is there. So I think jobs will increase. That's there.
Okay.
But I think, again, the number of people who want to get into these jobs and number of jobs that will grow is that will be imbalanced. Like, let's say there is a lot of awareness about quant education. Let's say there are 1 lakh people who want to get into industry, but you will have hardly 1,000 jobs left there to get a job. So the jobs will not grow at the same pace or as number of people who want to get into industry.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah,
The US right now is in that state. We are oversaturated with
yeah.
too many universities and too many students. And I think Indians are realizing this as well. Like you could spend a bunch of money and come to the US, but there's no job, there's H-1B visa issues. It could be a massive headache. Or if India's markets are growing, you could stay and, study locally and kind of build out that industry. I think China is actually about 5 to 10 years ahead of India in the sense that they were
I think more. I think
More, you
more.
think more? Okay. They
Okay.
they
Yeah.
were they were predominantly coming to the US because it was like this is where all the jobs are, all the industries
Yeah.
at. And then Singapore really started growing, Hong Kong started growing more so, even Shanghai. And now we see a lot of Chinese students like the applications are falling. And I'm like, why is that? And then I find out, well, there's good education and good jobs in China, so why would you spend all the time and money to come to the US? And I think that's kind of India now is like it's kind of in that transitionary state where US universities are struggling now because we don't have as many, Indians and Chinese applying anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of that,
I think see Chinese people. So it might get a bit political. So I would not go to political side, but yeah, the thing is, see Chinese are giving incentive for their brilliant people to come back to the country back. They have certain schemes for these people, and
Mhm.
they're trying to bring that talent to the country. The thing with India, I will tell you, is that we don't have any incentive. We are not giving the NRIs to come back to India.
Okay.
Like if there are already NRIs who are already very established and they've made good money and they want to come back to India, set up a business in India, that's a different story. But a talent which I went like 5 years back and doing good in US, probably he don't have much of an incentive to come back to India. Like we have a lot of growth going on, but again, it's basically he will say that okay, I'm making let's say 500,000 in the US. He will never get that kind of money in India. So I think a lot of the reason a lot of people not applying like might the number might drop in application of US from India would be reason that because of visa issue,
Oh, yeah.
not because that there is a lot of incentive to stay in India. There is, but if purely from a quant point of view, I think still we don't have what US have right now in terms of quality of jobs, particularly and a number of quality of jobs which you have because US have a lot of big firms as well as a lot of mid-sized firms,
Mhm.
small size firms. In India, we have less. In terms of asset and management, right? I will tell you, you have a lot of multi-site hedge funds in US which have very good AUMs. If I tell you on the Cat 3 hedge fund side in India, we don't have multi-asset, multi-stat hedge fund in India. And most of the hedge funds have hardly AUM, let's say $400 million. If you go on
Okay.
the hedge fund sides, there are no huge AUMs.
Do you think that there's anything that needs to happen in India to make that better? I know one of the challenges where people always say the United States is amazing and it's doing great in the quant market. And I'm like, yes, but it's because we have so much structure. There's so many rules and laws, which is a
Yeah,
huge headache, but it also makes the quant finance work better because there's very, very predictable rules and structure. Do you think that there needs to be some sort of change in the markets in India to help draw more cash and capital to it? Or do you think it's just like a timing thing? Like it's just going to take time for these firms to build out?
I think a lot it has to do with the regulations. So, like in US, you don't have a lot of that rigid regulation in hedge fund space the way we have in India.
Okay.
Because if you want to start a hedge fund, you have to take a Cat 3 license, Category 3 AIF license, Alternative Investment Fund license, and it's the regulatory requirement is huge. And the thing is that taxation is a very big problem in those kind of vehicles, investment vehicles. So a lot of people, what they do is they set up their entities in let's say offshore entities somewhere in Singapore or some other countries, and they will set up their offices. But again, I don't like how much I talk to a lot of these people in India. AUM is still not growing at that space.
Okay.
AUM still not there. I think once the AUM comes, people start trading more markets, team become bigger, then we will see more jobs. But overall, I would say I have a very positive view in terms of quant industry in India, which will grow. But it will take some time. It will take some time to let's say accelerate. But it's growing.
That makes sense. I've even seen a lot of people in the US talk about how the best funds always start doing one thing. Like they only
Yeah,
trade one asset, one strategy.
yeah,
And then it's like the big firms have then slowly grown into a second
yeah,
category and a third category. So I agree. I think we should see some pretty good growth in India, especially over the next probably 10, 15 years here.
yeah.
So what is next for Quant Insider? Like what are you guys planning on growing out? You've hinted at you're going to be doing some consulting work. Do you guys have a long-term vision of how you're going to grow it into like other
So
areas or what's kind of the goal of this?
like we want to be everything quant, like everything should be we in quant industry. So whether you want to build algo systems or you want to get risk systems, you want to get hiring, you want to do education, we want everything in a one solution at our place. So we are trying to build an ecosystem, and right now our focus is on the AI product which we are building on the hiring front,
Mhm.
which will be launching soon. It will take some time, but we are working on that. And second thing which we are thinking on education as well. Like we are thinking on a AI product for education, but it will take 2 3 months more. So we are working on a lot of AI integration on the education front as well as the HR front. And now the another thing which are focusing on that collaborating with universities in India to provide that education, to provide that awareness to students in terms of this industry. So we are already collaborating with few IITs. Through those IIT collaborations, we will be the campus ambassadors will be promoting the education in their colleges. At least 1,000 colleges will be there, like huge number of colleges will be there in those programs. That way we will be able to promote it. Yeah, and but we want to partner with more universities to drive the education and awareness on the education side. And on
Okay.
the ergo side, let's see, even we are working on few things on research front, but it will take some time. So we are building our own research team. We are getting few good guys from top firms as mentors for our researchers. So we have very young researchers in our team, and we are getting few mentors who will mentoring them and building it. But again, that's a longer term project which we are focusing on. But a short term, the AI product for hiring and the education which we are building for short term.
Okay. Do you guys see that as a pipeline where it's like you join, Quant Insider, you get the education, you build up some layers, and then having kind of a job opportunity that comes out of that
Yeah.
into that algo
So
trading?
we are just trying to create a network effect. So let's say we are giving education and we get few good profiles. Okay, the same can be worked as a pipeline for sourcing it to the firms, right? It's basically a ecosystem. We are building a network effect which will help us to connect right people to the right, whether it's related to tech, whether it's related to education, whether it's related to hiring. So it will work as a network effect to just connect like people around the industry and around the space.
Okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
All right. So one final question here for the interview. Who do you think should follow and, pursue quantitative finance? Is there a special type of person that you think would do better at it, student wise? Or is there kind of like a threshold of like, exam scores? Like, what would you say to those that are kind of upcoming in college, high school, looking to get into the quantitative finance space?
I would say people who are willing to see, again I will categorize people in two categories. Once if
Yeah.
you already come from STEM background, if I already come from STEM background and you're very curious about math and uh, let's say you have very high interest in math and like let's say coding, and you like combining two different concepts together and come with a new concept, like you like thinking multifaceted, like multiple aspect and combining things. That's a great thing. And a second thing is you should be willing to put rigorous effort. So a lot of time people see it as glory, like it's like a glorified thing, but when you get inside it's a very lot of dirt you have to deal with.
Yeah.
So people who can do the grunt work, because even as an entry level quant at a bank, you will do a lot of grunt work and you have to go up. So you should be willing to accept what comes through your way, and you should be willing to work. And and again, like I said, you should be very good at math. Like you should have a proper interest and you should like it.
Yeah.
You cannot be like, okay, I will just study what is required, because a lot of things, there's no one way to do a particular thing. If I
Mhm.
want to, let's say, build a trading strategy which considers certain parameters, right? I can do it through a linear regression or multivariable regression, or let's say I can use a machine learning model for the same. So, or there are different ways to do one thing, right? So you should be curious about connecting different concepts and understanding the best way to come up with. If you are a non-STEM background guy who want to get into conference, buckle up. You have to study like a kid. You cannot be like, okay. So a lot of time happens is that we leave college and leave school, and after that we don't have a habit of sitting and writing, making notes. We
Mhm.
just see, like, if I want to learn, I will just watch a video and just okay, I just learn this concept. That doesn't work that way. I think you should be willing to put the work, with like, and put the head down and without thinking of result at least for 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah. That's excellent
Yeah,
advice. I think a lot of people miss the point, especially when I came from finance, right? There is a equation to do a task. When you get
yeah,
into quant finance, it's like I have a problem and there's like an infinite number of models or methods to
yeah. Solutions.
try, but you need to try
Yeah,
them out and figure out what's going to work best on that.
yeah.
Do you think AI and ML is going to be a big differentiator in this? Like the educational piece, at least, of learning these school tools and skills?
I think again, like I can just be more specific. I'm like, more. Can you give me more context in this?
Yeah. So, like for example, do you think the machine learning and AI education part, like learning the
Yeah,
models and new methodologies will really
yeah.
help drive the competitive edge? Or do you think it's going to be, I know there are people that think like AI is just going to take over and you're just going to hit a button. But for me, I always look at the quant side of like we are building the model and we are building the AI and the ML. Do you think it's going to be more of like it's important to learn how to build the tools, or is it going to be more important on how to actually just use the generalized platform?
You should have a fundamental understanding of what you're building.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I think quant in the industry, like you have to have a fundamental understanding of whatever you are doing. Even if you are building a pricing model, you should know what pricing you are doing, what parameters you're considering. And even if you know, right, people say you can use deep learning for pricing options. Even I have read that paper somewhere. But the thing is, when you go and pitch to a client that I've built this model and you can use it, you're like, dude, I don't know what you're putting in the parameters
Yeah.
and how should I use. So it's also a lot of things is also from client point of view as well in the finance industry, because you have to sell the product, if especially on the sell side, that I will use this. So I remember this meeting we had with a bank who we were collaborating on. So they shared a research paper with us, and we had a discussion on that. And my intern was with me, and we were having this paper discussion. And we had a simple question whether why we didn't use this method instead of this method. And the guy is a director of that research team. Okay, he handles the whole equities, quant equity research. And he was like, yeah, but the thing is, I have to tell it to client. It's difficult to tell it to client, so I have to put this method because it's difficult to pitch it to him. And we have to keep it a bit simple because we are in the business of selling the product. So
Mhm.
that's also another thing which I think is there. So fundamentally, you cannot leave fundamental concepts, I guess. Even if you learn, you know how to use the tool, but it as a quant, you build stuff, right? You are not using directly. So I think you should have fundamental knowledge. You cannot leave fundamental knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and selling it is a absolute critical piece I think almost everybody misses. I get
Yeah,
so many people that are like, "Oh, I have this really cool, methodology, and I threw it in and all these great results came out." And I'm like, "So how are you going to explain that to the investors?"
yeah,
Because when you lose, 20% or something or 10% like in a month or a week or a day or something, the investors want to know like, "Why did you lose money?" And you're like, "I don't know, the model ran and that was what it gave me." Like,
yeah. So a lot of people miss this part because at the end of the day, you are working for someone. You're managing someone's money. So you have to keep in that mind while you're even building a product or building a model. At the end of the day, that's the thing. So yeah, having knowledge is good, but you have to know how you have to. I think we are in a business of
Mhm.
building product and selling product. And even if you're a trader or investor and you're running a fund, you have to explain to the investor that what you're actually running in
Yeah.
most cases, until unless you again in scenario, right, let's say you are running a rent kind of a thing. That's a different story, that you don't have to tell everything. But a lot of time when you are dealing with, let's say, wealth management kind of a thing, and you even in wealth management, people have seen started using some quant strategies and basic models. You have to tell to the client, okay, I'm doing this. But explaining to the client is very important, I guess. That's a very important aspect with people which when they build models. I
Mhm.
think even you are informed, right? You will be building models for the client. You need to know, explain to the client what actually exactly is being going on there.
Yeah, definitely. So, where can people find out more about Quant Insider? Is it quantinsider.com? Like, what's the.
It's quantinsider.io. Yeah,
Okay.
and anyway, you can search us on LinkedIn. We have quite good following on LinkedIn, so yeah, and you can just check quantinsider.io, and we have put everything there. And we are actually trying to put more content out in terms of education, and we have a lot few things in the pipeline which will come out on the website soon. Yeah, so you can always check our website, and you just follow us on LinkedIn. Everything we put on LinkedIn, and whatever we do, everything is on LinkedIn. So if you want anything related, everything comes out on LinkedIn first. First thing which we do is LinkedIn.
Awesome. I will put that in the description here as well on the podcast and the YouTube channel so people can follow you guys.
Sure. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.